We are here at Oakside Community Park, and I'm with a veteran, Bob Funt, and this is in Bigderville. Let's just take a swing around here and look at this beautiful pond. And right across that pond and up in there in the woods is where Bob lives. He actually has a house in there. He don't live in the woods. He has a house there. Coming back around, him and I have become dear friends, and when it came to this 4th of July weekend, I wanted to interview him. Bob, when it comes to the 4th of July, what comes to your mind?
1776, the first 4th of July celebration. Independence of this country. It was the beginning of this country. Now almost, I guess it's been about 247 years ago, 48. We're still celebrating this country. Over the years, my wife and I had the opportunity to travel across this country. I've been to 49 states. She's been to 48 of them.
You're kidding. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I have Alaska, the only thing I haven't been to yet.
Oh my.
So, but you get to see this great country, the diversity of the people, the diversity of the land, topography as you go across, and I just love it all. I think one of the most favorite places for me to be would be in the Hayden Valley in Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming. You can down there and park your vehicle off the road down into the woods along the Yellowstone River and just sit there and wait. And the bison will come down and go all around your car, or the elk will come down, and just watch everything, the beauty of this country. And
It is a beautiful country.
oh, I love it. I love it. Also,
And Bob, that's the thing. You know, in interviewing, I want to be able to jump in here anytime, but, you know, I just wonder, there's so many thousands of people who really do love this country. It's hard to fathom that people don't love this country. You know.
what really burns me is when I see on the news where you have people who come from other countries and then badmouth this country when they get here. They gave them their freedom. They gave them a beautiful place to live. And when they start badmouthing the country, and they just came here maybe 20 years ago, it just burns me up. I think, I look back at it, how many thousands of Americans died to protect this country since 1776?
You know, Bob, there's 4,000, I read this the other day, there's over 4,000 reasons in Arlington Cemetery why we should stand and salute the flag.
Yes.
Over 4,000 reasons. You're a veteran yourself. It's no joke. People went out there and gave their life. They gave their all for this country. Them are the people that really appreciate the freedoms we got, aren't they?
They raised their right hand and they pledged to protect this country against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. And today, as you read the news and watch what's going on, there's a lot of domestic out there that needs to be taken care of.
No truer words have ever been spoken. And yet, we're not here to rebel rouse against our government. God tells us to pray for them, and certainly they need a lot of prayer. They really do. But at this 4th of July weekend, you and I are trying to serve the Lord and put the Lord first in our life. You just got any suggestions for the people on what we really should do as far as the country to help it during these tough times?
Pray. First of all, for the country and the people in it, our leaders. I know some of our leaders might sort of agitate you a little bit. I'm going to use the correct English on that one.
That's fine.
But you can still pray for them. Now, I personally, what I did, this might be a little political, but on January 20th this year, I actually took my United States flag down and I put on my "Don't Tread on Me." That's my little common way of saying my little protest against what I see as a deterioration of this country, its morals, what is all good in this country. Whoever was good now they think is bad. and what was bad they think is good,
Yeah.
and I don't know how
But
to describe it.
Bob, the Lord's given this country how many years? Over 200 years?
247 or 48 years.
And
my math in my head.
there's been a lot of choices that affected this country that were not really great choices in the spiritual sense.
Well, you look back at 1861, this country went to war with itself. You had one group of people who say slavery, and both people. And I was look at this last night on a YouTube movie. Both of them quoted the Bible on slavery, whether you're north or you're south, for or against.
Yeah.
They were all. This is what they were believing in.
They were passionate about it,
They were
weren't they?
both sides, and it took 4-year war to bring the country back together. Well, under one fold. Whether they're together, I don't know.
Yeah.
And even still today,
Yeah.
I don't know if they're totally together.
But there's a beautiful verse in the Bible that says, if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and repent and pray and call on God, he said, I'll hear their voice and I'll forgive their sins and I'll heal their land. And I believe that's the prescription for revival and renewal and for our country. You know that?
And also one thing, and we talked about this over breakfast, I respect the military that we have today.
Mm-hmm.
The military we have today is an all-volunteer military. Nobody drafted them. Nobody forced them into service.
Mm-hmm.
But we have this, I think it's about 2.1 million in uniform today, and we all should thank them for the liberty we have today. They're carrying on the mindset of the people of 1776. They were an all-volunteer army then. There was no draft. They volunteered, and they fought the most powerful nation in the world at that time, England, and won. Mm-hmm. And I have such respect for today's military.
That's great, Bob.
What? I think it all started, and I told the pastor at breakfast this morning, in 1966, New Year's Eve. It was Boot Camp Liberty when I was at Great Lakes Naval Base.
Where is that, bud?
That's in Illinois, north of Chicago. So I took the train up to Waukegan that night.
And you were how old?
Then I was 18.
18.
And I was walking down the streets of Waukegan, and we had snow the night before. And all at once, a whole bunch of snow came down off this awning and down all over me.
Hit you?
It hit me. It put me down.
Mm-hmm.
And this stranger came up to me and brushed me off, got me up, and he handed me a $10 bill and said, "Go out and enjoy yourself tonight." Well, that $10 bill bought me a steak dinner, and I went to the movies, and it paid for my train fare back down to the base that night because we had to be back before midnight.
Yeah.
And what I do, and if I see a military today in a restaurant, or if they come into the 7-Eleven in the morning getting a coffee, I pay for their coffee, or I might pay for their meal. And I figure I try to do this to pay back that individual back in 1966, that gave me $10.
That is absolutely a great story, Bob.
I mean, that's my way, and that's one way to say thank you to those people that are protecting us yet still today.
That's great. In the original, you started out our little talk by talking about the 4th of July and the Declaration of Independence. Who were some of the leading people involved in all of that?
Well, the one that really stands out, and if you look at the copies of the Declaration of Independence, John Hancock, he wrote his name so large on that, he said he wanted King George to be able to read that without putting his spectacles on.
That's funny.
But those people who signed that Declaration of Independence, they were basically could be signing their death penalty.
Yeah, they were.
And a lot of them did.
They did.
Lose their lives over this. They lost their homes, their families,
That's right.
Everything over this. But yet they put their name to that and sent that to the King of England.
Was Washington there in on that?
Washington was there. Washington did not sign that. Washington, after the Declaration, and they started forming the army, he was chosen to lead the army.
Oh, yeah.
Because basically he was a plantation owner in Virginia. He had been a surveyor, and back during the French Indian War, well, I think it was a colonel, and he had military service prior, and he was chosen then to lead the armies.
How about Jefferson?
Jefferson, he was the writer and put together the Declaration of Independence on those hot, steamy days in Philadelphia in 1776.
How many transcripts, or how many times, I wonder, was it rewritten before it actually became a declaration? Do you have any idea?
I don't know, but I know that it wasn't signed on the 4th.
Right.
It was signed, I believe, on July 2nd.
Yeah.
But it was not released until July 4th.
You're such a great friend, and I couldn't think of anybody that I wanted to tape with this morning that I respect anymore. And I got a lot of people that have served, and I respect every one of them. My hat's off to them, because they put their life on the line. And as we come to the 4th of July, we're living in a very important place as far as military actions are concerned. We live on the very verge, on the very edge of the battlefield in Gettysburg. Can you tell me for just a moment how that plays into the 4th of July? Something really significant happened in July there on that battlefield.
Well, on July 3rd, it was called the High Tide of the Confederacy. It was basically one of the last chances for the Confederates to actually become an independent nation. If they would have won a major battle on northern soil, that would have brought France and Great Britain in on the side of the Confederacy. It would actually have been the end of the United States as we know it today. Not only Gettysburg, which was a Union victory on the 3rd, but the next day on July 4th, the same year, Grant took Vicksburg, which actually cut the Confederacy in half. It opened up the Mississippi River to Union forces from the mouth at New Orleans all the way up to Minnesota.
Right.
So those two things that began the downfall of the Confederacy, and which ended in April of 1865 when Robert E. Lee surrendered to Grant at Appomattox. The war didn't end right then. It still continued for about another 6 weeks until the end of May, until the final of all Confederate forces surrendered. And actually, the last battle of the Civil War, which took place in Texas, was a Confederate victory. So
That's interesting. Yeah, if anybody's listening to this and you have never been to Gettysburg and taking the tour, you need to do that, because it's very enlightening. Where brothers and cousins fought against each other. Do you have it in your memory there in Pickett's charge how many people laid down their life in battle for freedom? How many was it? Was it 15,000 or something?
There's approximately 13,500 men came across that open field,
Yes.
which is just almost a mile wide.
Right.
The line originally was almost a mile from north to south as they came out of those woods across the fields. And out of those 13,500 came across, 6,500 did not return.
Yeah.
They lay either dead or wounded on the field. And that's just the Confederates. There was a lot more. There was more Union also that were wounded and died.
Right.
But it was a terrific, basically a hand-to-hand battle at the very end.
It's always been an amazing thing to me if you study that a little bit. Even the generals and lieutenants from the North had great respect for General Robert Lee. They were men among men, and when it was time to gather around the campfires at night, they had great respect for each other and their leadership abilities, didn't they?
Well, most of them were all West Point graduates.
Yes,
They were in the Army together.
Yes.
They went through the Mexican War together.
Yeah.
Two of them, Hancock, and he was stationed in Los Angeles, California at the time, and his closest friend, they said goodbye in California, and so his name just I lost it real quick there. Senior moment. But they met on the battlefield at Gettysburg. And the Confederate officer was mortally wounded at Gettysburg. And sent a message through Hancock saying he was so sorry that he came against him, you know. And this friend then died a couple of days later at a field hospital. Was buried there at the hospital. Later on, his body was exhumed and taken to Virginia for his final burial.
Right.
But it was friend against friend.
Yeah.
It was even brother against brother.
Yeah, it was.
And Jack Scully was with a unit in Winchester, Virginia during the Civil War. And he actually fought against the 2nd Virginia face to face against his own brother. Jack Scully was killed at Winchester.
Wow.
But there was so many instances where it was brother against brother, father against son during the Civil War.
Well, Bob, as we end our little time together, this has been a joy. Thanks for letting me interview you this morning.
Thank you.
I would just like to say that in my realm of friends, everybody stands when Old Glory flies. In my circle of friends, when the Star Spangled Banner is played, we stand, take off our hat, and we cross our hearts. I want to thank you personally for your service in Vietnam and extend it out to all the other people who have served this great country. There's still a great host of people who are very, very grateful, and I've enjoyed our talk this morning.
It's too bad that the minorities have the biggest voices.
Yeah.
It's the majority of the Americans out there love this country.
They do.
Respect this country.
That's right.
And pray for its best.
Yeah. And let me say to you, as Ronald Reagan used to always say, God bless you and God bless the USA.
Thank you.
We'll see you, Bob.
Take care.
Bye.
If tomorrow all the things were gone I'd worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my life, I'd thank the precious Lord to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA. Well, there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I proudly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. love this land. God bless the USA. God bless the USA.